So today we have Tim Ash with us. He is a best-selling author, a keynote speaker, and a marketing practitioner for about 150 years, right? Looks really great for his age. No,
Nice.
you've been around for forever. I mean, digital
Yeah.
marketing, old guard here.
Yeah,
So
it's since Al Gore invented the interwebs. Yeah, well,
that's
actually, yeah, since
right.
the mid
Mm-hmm.
90s. Yeah, so I'm one of the
Yes.
dinosaurs. But
Well,
I'm
you
still
know,
a
in
Gen
a good
Xer.
way.
I'm not a boomer, okay? Despite what my kids call me.
It's all good. So he wrote the best-selling book on landing page optimization, and he's got a new book that just dropped. Super exciting. It's called Unleashing the Primal Brain. Oh, there we are. The Essential Field Guide for Modern Marketers. And we love, marketers, we love any way that we can get into get into the back door of the brain and serve like in a way that's super effective, like help people get to the solutions that they need faster, quicker, easier, and support our clients in that way and their clients. So I'm really excited to hear about that in the context of how we can prepare for the rebound of
Yeah.
coronavirus, COVID-19, and in the bigger arc of the story, because at some point this won't be the pandemic won't be the narrative of our life, presumably, and we will be left with that base conversation of, okay, how do we train ourselves for resiliency? So no matter what happens, we bounce back. We all know people who make lemonade from lemons every day, no matter the situation, and we want that to be us.
Yeah, well, I think, by the way, the book's evolved a little since that early manuscript I sent you. So it's not necessarily focused on neuromarketing. It's a more
Okay.
general
Oh,
book about how your brain works. It's about the evolutionary psychology part. There's just too much information packed into it already to be
I
able
got
to
that.
apply it to anything like
I'm
marketing.
sure it's a series. Well, I'm going to get my Audible copy today, and thank you also for the early access. That was brilliant, and I'm looking forward to my autographed copy. Thank you for mailing
Yeah.
that. Yeah, but I love it on Audible. So go get Tim. You recorded your
Yeah,
book,
I
right?
narrated myself. Well,
That's
being a
awesome.
keynote speaker, it's not exactly a stretch for me to record my own book.
Yes.
And I understand people prefer that anyway for the nonfiction titles.
Mm-hmm. Got it. No, that's wonderful. What was that experience like?
Wow, I learned a lot. I basically built my own home sound isolation booth. And it's not a soundproofing. That's one of the things that people don't understand. It's really just to cancel out the room echo off of the hard surfaces like floors, walls, ceilings, and windows. So I actually built it out of PVC tubing. That's the stuff you use for making your sprinkler systems, like Tinker Toys, and then hung moving blankets around it on curtain rods. And that absorbs the echo, and it gives a very intimate relationship between you and the microphone. So there you go.
Awesome. Well, great. I can't wait to listen. So Tim, oh, and one more thing. What we'll end up doing is it's easier for my folks to do the editing and to grab snippets to put out on LinkedIn or whatever if we do a little extra pause in between. So if it seems like I'm waiting a little too long, I'm just trying to remember to do that for Aria. Okay. So Tim, what are you seeing are the positives of this experience of COVID-19? I know you
Mm,
yourself were impacted in a big way. You just
yeah.
pivoted and were gearing up and had several international speaking keynote gigs booked, which went away as events
Yes. Yeah. So that
wound
was definitely
down.
not a
And
positive.
I got that. But what are you seeing that in the clients that you are working with that have, well, it's been a positive for the clients that you get to work with now because you wouldn't have had time for that if the keynote career had gotten to really ramp up the way you had intended and had it all lined up. So I would say that. But what do you see as possible for you, for your career, for your clients, or other things, other businesses, peers that you've seen because of COVID-19 that wouldn't have been otherwise?
Well, I actually, it's a patchy thing. Obviously, overall, hundreds of thousands of people have died in our country alone because of this,
This is not a
pathetic jungle
positive. Yep.
response. Yeah, that's not. And people's lives have been devastated. There's a mental health crisis. There's more domestic violence. I mean, it's, not a good scene all around. But
Mm-hmm.
there are some kind of silver linings to me about it. On a personal level, I would say that I'm getting much deeper connections with people. Everyone was too busy before. I'm doing whatever I'm doing. I'm, pivoting and growing my next unicorn and, using all the buzzwords that I need to. And I'm just too busy to talk to you. And now people have time to just live life at a more normal pace. And I found that they're willing to go deeper in conversations, even when you're talking to business people. A lot more personal stuff enters into it when their dog jumps into the background or their kids, talking to them. If people are more real and they're willing to be more open and vulnerable, to me, that's one of the gifts of this time.
Got it. For sure. Authenticity. It's right there.
Yeah.
Great. And what have you or your peers or teams or clients, what have you seen that folks have learned that they wouldn't have learned if not for this experience?
Well, I think that we're locking in some new habits regarding how we shop and how we buy. And for example, I never did online grocery shopping. And then I think, why am I getting in my car, driving to the grocery store, and possibly risking infection, spending the money on gas when I could just have somebody drop it off and deliver it for me? So I think buying patterns are happening. I saw somewhere a stat that said for e-commerce, the growth in the percentage of the economy that's done through e-commerce for the preceding 12 years has been the same as the 12 weeks of the lockdown. So basically, e-commerce growth has doubled in 12 weeks from what it had done in the previous 12 years. So I think that those habits, once you do them for weeks or months at a time, get ingrained, and those are accelerating the shift towards online shopping, for example.
For sure. Great. And how are you preparing for the rebound? What are you doing? What are you not doing?
I'm hearing the sound right now.
I figured. Oh, good. We'll give it a sec.
Yeah.
And you may have some questions you want me to ask too. Just let me know what those are, specific to the book or, what you're out to create in your business.
Yeah, like why I wrote the book would be good, and
yeah,
what's it about, who's it for, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and maybe there's some way, maybe not, but if there's something about preparing for the rebound and resiliency and how you're seeing that you're pivoting or what you're doing.
No, I can definitely tie that in right now. And to answer your question, if you could re-ask the question, do you want to just?
Yeah, great.
Sounds on.
Great. Tim, so what are you doing or what are you seeing peers do or clients do right now to prepare for the rebound?
Well, I think the best answer to that is all of our assumptions are out the window and certain things are not possible. So to me, the question, and to everyone I've talked to, is how to productively use this time. As you mentioned, I've had 7 speaking engagements from Italy to Moscow, Russia, to Argentina, to Sao Paulo, Brazil. In fact, this week I was supposed to be in front of 17,000 on a live stage in Sao Paulo. Not happening till next year. I mean, they pushed it off and I get to come back next year. So I did the virtual version of it. So, but in terms of preparing for the rebound, I think you have to stay productive. So if you can't do certain things, all of those other things you didn't do are the things you should be doing now. The things that don't require travel, that require focus and concentration. In my case, I'm very proud to say I gave birth to the book. I mean, with my crazy travel schedule, I don't know when I would have finally finished it, but having 3 uninterrupted months led to it being published right now instead of maybe a year from now. So basically, what can you do is what you should be doing. Don't waste time, upgrade your skills, learn things. Focus on the parts of the business that are going to diversify and give you new income streams. So, I mean, think of all of your resources, which include time, mental effort, and ability to learn, not just trying to sell more into an environment that's not accepting what you're selling.
Got it. Great. And I'm just muting myself so I don't ruin a good take with background noise in case it pops up. Great. Okay. There's another one.
It started again.
It just started again. It's super exciting. They're putting in a full bathroom up there, and it was the hangar was basically a place where the man got away from his family. So it's just a lot of dirt.
Giant man cave, right?
Pretty much, wood paneling and old carpet and Yeah, this crazy heater plugged into the wall that burnt this like moose head into the wood paneling above it.
Oh my God, that sounds kind of
Scary.
sketchy. Like
Scary. It was
very
scary.
trailer
Yeah,
park.
yeah. Well, the guy, yeah, anyway. So I'm curious, Tim, how do you promote a book during COVID? You can't do, the speaking gigs that you had scheduled for around the world that have all been postponed. Would have been a great foil for it. Um,
Yeah, in fact, a lot of my speaking engagements had book sales built in, where they would either buy copies of the book for me to do a signing, or have a book sponsorship from one of the conference sponsors, and that sort of thing. So that's obviously not available right now. But the way that I'm focusing my promotion mainly on podcasts, and the reason is I think that if you have a relationship with a podcast host and you're spending a lot of time listening to them, you let them into kind of your intimate circle. And I'm pretty good, I feel, on air, including, let's say, this discussion with you. And so people get a sense for me. And that's quite a bit of time to invest, to spend a half hour or an hour listening to a conversation with somebody and kind of eavesdropping on it. So it gives you a sense of intimacy. And I believe that being a guest on a lot of podcasts, as you know, I used to run my own. I had about 130 episodes in the can of my landing page optimization one. But being a guest on podcasts is my primary strategy, in addition to webinars and virtual events where I, of course, mention the book. So obviously you can't do the in-person stuff anymore.
so, what's changed about your job?
The excitement for me was a lot of it involved traveling and meeting new people. There's really, no matter how wonderful your internet connection is or how high resolution your webcam is, sorry, Zoom meetings, just not the same. So to be able to meet new people, to interact with them, to have unforced time with people, all of that casual stuff, even to set up a casual conversation, we have to say, hey, let's schedule a Zoom meeting. Okay, so that's not that casual anymore. It's kind of like, okay, it's on my calendar now. So all of that is what I missed. The travel, definitely. I'm a bit of a travel photographer as well. So all the places in the world that I would have been this year, and all of the opportunities of not exploring them as a tourist. Yeah, I miss that stuff.
Thank goodness for the mute button. Oh my gosh. Um, so Tim, this is an opportunity for people to really flex and develop their resiliency muscle. And that will serve us now, it will serve us in the future, no matter what happens. How do you develop and build your resiliency muscle?
Hmm, that's a great question. I've been spending a lot of time making sure I have the proper self-care. I think it's foundational, especially in times of stress. And I wouldn't say this is extreme stress. I mean, people live through wars and car accidents and, all kinds of stuff, right? Or, major health problems. I don't have any of those. So I can't complain. My biggest problems are, um, raising teenagers in the house and they're going a little stir crazy and that sort of thing, or not being able to do keynote speaking, like they say, first world problems, right? But in general, I think when you're under stress, you need to make sure that the foundational stuff is taken care of. And so for me, that means a number of things. One is that I have to get proper sleep. That's something else I talk about in my book. Sleep is foundational to all life on the planet. It's just not optional. I don't care about how unproductive you think it is or why you're binge watching Netflix at 2 a.m. But sleep is sacred for me. My kids are on the vampire schedule. They only come out at night. 10 o'clock, I'm out because I'm also doing grounding and earthing, electrical connection and neutralizing that. And so I'm waking up at first light between 6 and 6:30. So if I don't go to sleep by 10, I'm not getting my 8 hours and I'm not going to cheat myself. So that's foundational. Exercise, doing Tai Chi by the ocean, in my case, only about a mile away. So that's great. And also getting emotional support. That's really important. About a year and a half ago, I went through an initiation or retreat through this wonderful organization called the Mankind Project. And as after that, you get to sit in weekly men's circles with other people that have gone through it. And so I find that touching base with other authentic men and being able to in complete confidentiality, share and spill and do whatever work I need to do is critical also to that balance. And so a lot of time making sure that my gas tank is full before I give to others.
Yeah, that's very wise, and it works. Got it. So, what has surprised you about this time period with the pandemic?
Hmm. What's really surprised me about it has been just how interdependent we all are. And I feel like right now politically, I've become much more, I guess you could say, a progressive justice warrior, because this pandemic has laid bare the unfairness of our society. The people that are getting hit are the ones that are economically disadvantaged. There are huge structural problems in this country. We expect the people we rely on, the frontline workers and the essential workers of this pandemic, to keep doing their job, even though they're in the crappiest conditions. There's no security financially. There's no security from a health standpoint. There's no one to take care of kids. It just kind of shows the brutality of the American system to me. And I mean, I can't say it's a surprise, but it's really brought it into stark relief and made me want to do something meaningful about it, I guess.
Got it. Got it. Great. Okay. So, Tim, I'm curious, why did you write this book? And did it help you to be writing this book prior to and during a pandemic?
Yeah. Okay. So why did I write the book? Well, I've kind of come full circle. When I came out to University of California, San Diego, my undergraduate majors were computer engineering and cognitive science. So I've always been interested in the brain and cognition. And I stayed there for graduate school in what would these days be called neural networks or machine learning or artificial intelligence. So I've always been interested in the brain. Then I went off and had my career running marketing agencies, and from the Googles of the world on down, where our clients, and we created 1.2 billion in documented value. So, but I was applying cognition and behavioral economics and neuromarketing to marketing. And now I've kind of come full circle, and I realize that only helped the specific clients my agency used to work with. And what I really want to do is tell the world about this stuff. And so I've come back to my first love, which is, cognition and persuasion and psychology. And now I'm just in my keynote speaking and in the book, I'm trying to kind of spread the word so more people know how their brain really works. I mean, we labor under this delusion that being rational is some kind of thing to aspire to. And that's not how our brain works at all. That lie of rationality is a big lie. And it's really our primal brain that runs the show. And I want to kind of tell people about that.
And we're all going to go pick it up and read it. And what are some of the things that I'm just imagining that this is a great time to read this book?
Yes. So the way that if we're going to understand how our brain works, you have to kind of trace the whole evolutionary arc. So from the earliest life on Earth, things we share with insects and reptiles, to mammals and the herd instinct stuff we picked up there, and then to the very bizarre recent evolutionary adaptations that allowed us to overrun the whole planet. And so I cover everything from the neurochemistry of happiness to memory and learning, to gender differences, our social natures, culture, language. Everything's in there in this kind of arc that traces human evolution. And I've done it in a non-scientific way. So there's not a lot of jargon in there, no studies, no footnotes. It's just designed to be really accessible and a straight read and give you the essentials. And I think if you read it, you can apply it to certainly business, marketing, leadership, things like that, but also personal relationships, culture, society, how we learn, whether we mentor other people, intimate relationships. And finally, like personal development. If you really want to understand why you do a lot of things you do, you really need to understand how we got here. So that's who it's for, is those kind of those three groups: business, relationships, and personal growth, I would say. Something in
Got
there
it.
for everybody.
Great. Great. And I can hear in what you're saying that this would support building resiliency, because when you understand why you're doing what you're doing, the self-talk probably takes a different context.
Yeah, you
You know,
understand
it's
also.
automated. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and the kind of happiness chemicals that fire, what triggers them, what causes stress, what causes pain, how we can avoid situations, things like addiction and how that acts on us as well. So yeah, a lot there to help you through difficult times and understanding why you do things that are actually counterproductive to your well-being.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. Are there any questions that I haven't asked you that you'd like me to?
Ah, that's a good question. I guess the question I'd like you to ask me is what's on the other side of this pandemic?
Okay. So,
What is the resiliency? Oh, sorry.
yeah, yeah. So, Tim, for you, what's on the other side of this pandemic? What do you see your resiliency muscle carrying you through to?
Hmm. Well, I think it's a combination of both optimism and pessimism. What I mean by that is, on the one hand, I know we're going to get through this, and I'm optimistic that some new sense of community, some new world order, if you will, is emerging from this that'll hopefully be fairer and more compassionate. On the other hand, I think, I saw this editorial cartoon. It was like, okay, there's a guy standing on the beach and there's a big wave about to hit him called the pandemic. And then behind it's another wave that says economic recession. And behind it's another wave that says climate extinction. And it's this 120-foot wall tsunami, right? And so in a way, I think, get used to this, folks. In some sense, the world's not going to get better. So the time to think about resiliency and how to optimize for that is now, because this is just a dry run. This is just a dress rehearsal. And in our lifetime, certainly in my kids' lifetimes, things are going to get a lot freakier. So,
And that would circle us back to understanding how your brain works and self-care.
absolutely, self-care is number 1, 2, and 3 on my list to be able to function under stress.
Definitely. Maybe that's the next book you can write for marketers, is a primer on self-care. and
Well,
building that.
I have some ideas in the very end of the book that
Great.
talk about how to be more primal. If anyone's interested in this, please go to primalbrain.com. It's got information about the book, complete table of contents, and all of that, and where to get it, of course.
Awesome. Primalbrain.com.
Mhm.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time today, Tim, and for your service for all of us to have a better understanding of why we're doing what we're doing and how the brain works so we can set ourselves up for the life we want.
Yeah, it's been my absolute pleasure, Leslie.